At 5:59 p.m. on Christmas Eve, 12 plates gleam without me, while Isabella lifts my late wife's red mixer to applause. And the muted banner on our family group chat still reads Christmas exclusion as of a verdict. The snow deepens to 6 inches. The phone in my hand ticks down a single contact. And everyone laughs through the camera tour of my own suburban house, where I once hung the cabinets and wired the outlets, where my son smiles at the red prize he says is his now. The kitchen clock ticks like a nail gun, steady and smug. In my smaller place, I peel an orange and listen to the radiator hiss. The suburban house they're showing sits 3 miles away, the one I rehabbed in March 2019, room by room. Michael texts, "No drama tonight, Dad." I write back, "Noted." The peel oils my fingers bitter and bright. Wind drums the window. Across the screen, Isabella waves the mixer's whisk. "It's just a thing," she says. Maybe, but things remember. I keep a brown folder under the phone bill. Inside, a photocopy of a note with a code I wrote in pencil. 2868-14,000. The number isn't an account. It's how I remember dates, addresses, and amounts tied together. A private deed of trust, March 12, 2019. Principal, $280,000. Down payment tie, $140,000. Unit 68 was where the notary met us. One call and a friendly servicer posts a notice. They didn't budget for. That was only half the truth. I stand in my own hall mirror and smooth a red scarf someone once said made me look festive. Boots on. The snow stacks like drywall sheets out front, square and heavy. In the glass, I see paint flecks on my knuckles, fossilized jobs I never billed enough for. A battered tape measure rides my belt like a habit I forgot to quit. The scarf squeaks against the zipper. I lock the door behind me. The wind's breath is a cold tire iron taste. On the sidewalk, a neighbor trudges past with a bag of rolls. "You heading the family?" he asks. "They're heading to themselves," I say. He licks an eyebrow. "Holiday's a mess this year," he says. "People keeping score." I smile without the teeth. "Scores help you see the math," I tell him. He laughs and keeps moving, boots chirping on the ice. I pocket my phone and feel the folder's stiff edge. The storm powders my shoulders like sawdust from a fresh rip. Back home again, I stare at the group chat. The subject still reads Christmas exclusion in bold gray, like an old work order stamped, "Do not install." Photos pour in. The long table, the good plates, the kids in antler headbands. The mixer sits center stage, red as a stop sign. Someone writes, "Wish Grandpa Dennis could be here." Isabella replies, "Next year." Michael adds a thumbs up. I scroll to March 2019, and a different thread. "Thanks, Dad. We won't forget." They forgot. Michael arrived this morning with Isabella and a smile that misfired. He stood in my kitchen doorway and tapped the mixer like a bell. "We need this for the frosting," he said. "You can borrow it back after." I watched him uncoil the cord. "It was hers," I said, quiet. "We'll honor her with it," Isabella said, bright. I let them carry it out into the cold. The door closed, the hinges sighed. I whispered Maria once, and the room held its breath. After they left, I wiped the ring their mitts left on the counter. The mixer's footprint was a clean oval in the dust. I set down a cutting board like a placeholder. I boiled water for tea. Steam climbed. The radiator clicked a rhythm like knuckles on a table. Somewhere a plow hammered past. At 2:10 p.m. a text, "Dad, please don't come by tonight. It'll be awkward." A second later, "We need boundaries." The tea tasted like the inside of a penny. I called. Michael answered on speaker. Voices bubbled behind him. "Boundaries?" I asked. "Dad, it's just simpler," he said. Isabella chimed in. "The cousins are coming, and you know how you get." "How I get?" I said. "You collect jets," she said, a laugh under the words. "It's Christmas." "Christmas is when people settle up," I told her. "Not with money. Money is how you keep score when other things go missing," I said. Someone clinked a glass. The line clicked dead. The kitchen clock ticked like a nail finding a stud. I opened the folder. The deed of trust was a clean copy, notarized, page corners sharp as shims. I traced the margin note. Acceleration on default at holder's discretion. The servicing letter had a phone number in 7-point type. I set it face down and looked at the empty outlet where the mixer once homed. The hum I remembered was low and steady, like a quiet promise. The clock kept counting. By 3, the snow blew sideways. I took the old F-150 around the block to keep the battery honest. On Fairview, the wreaths twisted like green ropes in the wind. The kid dragged a sled and shouted into the storm. The radio gave me carols and a key that felt too bright. A plow coughed to a stop in front of the Methodist church and steamed like a horse. I pulled back into my spot and let the engine idle down to silence. On the porch, I dialed a different number. "Pete," I said. "Dennis. Boy's warm as a shop heater. Merry Christmas Eve." "He's still a Midwest title?" "Till 6 if the road's old." "I might ask a question about a recorded instrument," I said. He whistled. "Holiday reading. Who's the lucky borrower?" "My son," I said. Silence then. "You want to do this tonight?" "I'm asking about options," I told him. "Options are better than regrets," Pete said. "Come by fast." Midwest title sat in a squat brick with a single string of lights, half burned out. Inside smelled like paper and stale coffee. Pete wore a sweater loud enough to flag traffic. "Show me," he said. I slid the copy across. He adjusted his readers. "Private deed of trust, recorded. Your beneficiary and servicer of record per assignment." "I used a small outfit to set it up," I said. He nodded. "Acceleration clause is clean. You can file a notice after a call." "I'm not trying to take a roof from kids," I said. "I'm trying to stop the rot." Pete tapped the margin with his pen. "Then be surgical. You can call the servicer, freeze disbursements, and demand a conference." "On Christmas Eve?" He shrugged. "People choose their calendars." "What about optics?" "Optics follow outcomes," he said. The window rattled. As a gust hit, the string of lights blinked. Pete pushed the copy back. "You always measured twice," he said. "What's stopping you now?" I drove past their street and saw the cul-de-sac lit like a showroom. Cars lined the curve, exhaust turning to ghosts. Through their front window, the tree burned bright and tall. A camera moved, filming the table like a slow parade. The mixer stood in the middle, stainless bulb reflecting faces bent close. Someone lifted a cinnamon roll and groaned theatrically. Laughter swelled, a warm wave. Outside, the cold found my wrists under the gloves and squeezed till the bones rang. A child opened the door and shouted that someone was outside. Michael appeared with a napkin and a grin too wide. "Dad," he said, voice soft but shaped like a warning. I stayed on the walk. "You forgot to return the socket set," I told him. "I'll get it tomorrow." "You took more than a set," I said, looking past him. He blocked the view with his shoulder. "Not tonight," he said. "It's not a good night for accounting." "It's the perfect night," I said. Isabella slid in beside him, perfume sugar-sweet, cheeks high with heat and triumph. "Dennis, we'll bring leftovers," she said. "Please don't make a scene." Behind them, the family circle lifted glasses for a toast. Someone called out, "To chosen family." The words hit like a hammer swinging wide. I watched Michael's face for a flicker of shame. Nothing. The wind surged and tossed a sheet of snow across the step, and I took a step back, boots squealing on the ice. "Why does the group chat say Christmas exclusion?" I asked. Isabella blinked slow. "It was a joke," she said. "We changed it." Michael nodded. "It's just logistics, Dad." "Logistics is how bridges hold," I said, "and how they fail." A cheer rose from the dining room. Someone patted the mixer like a dog. Isabella smiled down the hall. "We really should get back," she said. "Maybe next year." "You said that in June," I told her. The cheer peaked and snapped like a flag. I walked back to the truck and let the heater try its best. Frost spidered from the corners of the windshield and refused to melt. A memory of a garage in 2019 crept in. The table, the notary, Michael's quick signature, Isabella's careful one. They joked about the house warming up the second they moved in. I had nodded and said, "Heat is a blessing you notice most when it stops." Outside now, the cold worked between my ribs with thin, clever fingers. At home, I stood in my kitchen doorway, where they had stood this morning, where the mixer once waited, like a red heart on stainless feet. The doorway became a sightline and a plan vector. The folder lay flat on the table. I set down a pen, a legal pad, and my phone. The radiator ticked in time with the kitchen clock, 2 metronomes counting out a narrow choice. I wrote a single sentence on the pad and underlined the last word twice. I called the servicer. A hold tone shimmered like tinsel, then a voice. This is Caleb, holiday coverage. Dennis Rowe, beneficiary of trust number ending 009, I said. Verifying, he replied, keys clicking like sleet on glass. I need to request acceleration based on borrower breach and initiate a conference, I said. We can flag immediate review, he said. Effective date? Tonight, I told him. Silence found a chair. Understood. You'll receive a call back, he said. Thank you, Caleb. He exhaled. Merry Christmas, sir. I set the phone down and listened to the kitchen clock knock at the air again, patient and precise. The radiator hissed like someone trying not to speak. I poured black coffee and let it go cold on purpose, a hard little ritual I used to keep my hands still. Outside, the snowstorm softened the street till the stop signs looked like smudges. On the table, the folder waited. The word exclusion bled through the group chat bubbles on my screen like ink in water. A video arrived. Michael, apron on, held the mixer bowl like a crown. Best cinnamon rolls in the county, he said to the room. Someone yelled, tell your dad thanks for the hardware. He looked into the lens and grinned. Thanks for the hardware, Dad. The bowl threw a warped red shine across his face. I felt the old drywall ache in my forearms. The weight of 20-pound sheets lifted and held above a head that learned to make room square for other people. The phone rang. Unknown number, local. This is Mariah from Midland Servicing, she said. We have your file. Do you want to proceed with acceleration and a hard freeze on any further voluntary disbursements? Yes, I said. We'll also require a borrower conference within 5 business days, she said. Schedule it, I told her, and notify title. A pause. You understand the consequences? It's December, I said. Consequences are seasonal. She didn't laugh. Understood. You'll get a notice number in 10 minutes. And I forwarded the notice to Pete with a 1-line note. File watching brief. Then I scrolled up the chat and found the old photo of the garage table, the pens, the coffee rings, the grin on Michael's face, the day he promised to pay what he asked to borrow. The caption read, in my hand, family loan, not charity. The screen blinked and a new message popped. Dad, please don't be petty tonight. I typed, tonight I am precise. Then I put on my coat. The notice number arrived as a short thread of digits with a cold little period at the end, like a nail-set flush. I wrote it on the legal pad under the code 2800-68-14000 and circled both until the paper bruised. I sent Pete a second message, filed and timed. He replied with a thumbs-up emoji that looked oddly human in that office light I'd just left. The radiator hissed like it disapproved of the whole thing, then settled into its old steady breath. At the printer. The page slid out warm as bread. I clipped it to a clipboard with a nickel clip I've had since 1987. The kitchen clock tagged each second like a foreman counting hours on a slab pour. Outside, the snow softened the streets so completely the world held its tongue. I folded a clean copy for posting. One for the lender's door slot, and one to carry. Because paper is a hammer that looks like paper, but it still hits. I opened the family thread again. The subject still read Christmas exclusion, as if the words were frozen under glass. They were posting videos now. Frosting poured, children howling, Isabella choreographing like a ringmaster. I took a screenshot of the banner and saved it in a folder named Supli Work. I typed, then deleted, then typed, return the mixer now. No one replied. The radiator ticked in sympathy, or maybe sarcasm. I put the phone face down, face up, face down again. Memory makes its own weather. March 12, 2019, Unit 68, 2800 Ridgeview. A hallway that smelled like lemon cleaner and winter boots. I had stepped out to stretch my back and heard Isabella's whisper, sharp and fast. He'll never enforce any of this. He's 68. Just sign. Michael chuckled and said, it's basically a gift. Then a softer voice. Even the 140? He won't see that back? Paper shuffled. The door opened. and they smiled like nothing had been said, but that was only half the truth. I drove back and parked under their maple, the branches lit like antlers. To the blinds, faces swam in amber. I rang. Michael cracked the door, heat breathing past his shoulder. "Dad, please," he said. "It's Christmas." "So return the mixer," I said. "It's ours," he replied. "Yours," I said, "because you took it." Isabella's voice rose from the dining room. "Tell him to stop." He tightened his grip on the door. "Go home," he said, "before this gets embarrassing." We had different definitions. On the porch, my phone buzzed. "Midland Servicing," the voicemail began. "Brisk. Payment current. To accelerate, we require evidence of breach beyond tone, including misrepresentation or documented refusal to comply with conference." The word current carried a smug, indoor warmth. I stared at the frost squirming on the door glass like white worms. "If current is a shield, you remove the current." I slipped the clipboard under my arm and felt the paper's weight like a tool I'd carried all my life. At home, I dug into a banker's box of old folders, fingers numb from the walk. A deposit slip from March glowed up at me. $140,000 wired to Michael's closing account. Memo field handwriting mine, one word, loan. In my email, a scan of the signed note with its plain words, repay according to schedule, secured against the property. The radiator thumped once, like a heart. I laid the slip, the note, and the notice number side by side. The kitchen clock approved. I found a voice memo I had made out front of 2800 Ridgeview that day. I picked up when jobs grew contentious. Wind, then Isabella. Sign, his help is not a debt. Michael, he'll forget the number before summer. Their laughter overlapped the chime of the elevator. The file's timestamp and the notary's schedule lived like neighbors. Proof is dull and beautiful. I forwarded the memo to myself and printed the transcript, the paper coming out with a small, satisfied sigh. I held the red scarf and felt the tiny snag where Maria caught it on a cabinet hinge the week we hung them. I said her name once, quietly, and it fit the room the way old paint fits wood grain. The mixer's absence was fill a bright hole on a counter, an empty socket without a plug. The radiator breathed. The clock kept its square little march. I tucked the scarf under my coat collar and buttoned the top button with steady hands. I returned to their doorstep and knocked. The family circle turned their faces as one toward the door, then away, like a flock correcting course. Isabella appeared with a plate held like a shield. "We voted," she said. "No stress tonight. Boundaries." Michael hovered behind her, eyes on the notice in my hand. "You bring paper to dinner? That's pathetic," someone called from the table. I felt the heat slide around me, like I was a co-rack. I nodded, stepped back, and left. In the truck, the defroster blew lukewarm, smelled faintly of old leaves. An alert pinged on my phone. Scheduled autopay canceled, mortgage payment review in progress. The phrase "canceled mortgage payment" looked like a light switching from green to amber. I watched the snow tide across the windshield until the wipers carved their brief channels. My hands stopped shaking. A second ping. Borrower conference scheduled December 29th, 10 a.m. 5 days, a long time in the wrong kitchen. The clock on the dash rolled to 7:07. I called Midland and asked for a holiday supervisor. "Criteria for fraudulent gift letter versus secured family loan," I said. Papers rustled. "If a gift letter exists inconsistent with a recorded lien or promissory note," the supervisor said, "we can suspend servicing and escalate for misrepresentation." "Would a memo field and a contemporaneous recording help?" I asked. "Substantially," she said. "Email now." I hung up, wrote "misrep" big across the legal pad, and underlined it. The radiator hissed a long, pleased whisper and went still. I searched my email archives for gift and closing. There it was, a PDF from the lender, unsigned draft gift letter, requesting that I stake funds were a gift. I had replied that week with a single sentence. "Funds are a loan, secured per attached." I printed both, the paper catching a corner on the tray and tearing slightly, like it wanted to come out faster. I smoothed the tear with my thumb. The clock threw its small shadow across the stack, like a sundial. In the family thread, I posted nothing. I sent Michael a direct text instead. Notice number 55 issued. Conference set. Return the mixer tonight. The dots flashed, then disappeared. In the main thread, the banner still read Christmas exclusion, and the photos had multiplied. Each one a little parade of warmth. A cousin posted, "Boundaries are healthy." Someone added, "Protect your peace." I set the phone flat on the table and traced the word exclusion on the screen protector until my fingertips squeaked. I parked again at the curb and cracked the window. The sound of the house came out like breath in winter. Laughter, forks tapping, someone humming carols off-key. Through the mail slot, a draft carried a sliver of conversation. "He's bluffing," Michael said. Isabella replied, softer. "My cousin says a private lien can choke a refinance." Michael, "There's no refinance." Isabella, "Then he chokes the payment." Silence fell, as if the room had swallowed something hard. The wind shoved snow against my door with a low, grinding sigh. Back home, I set the clipboard on the table, laid out 3 envelopes and labeled them with a carpenter's care. Door, servicer, title. I printed a 1-page cover that began with the code 2800 68 14000 and ended with tonight's notice number. In the middle, I listed attachments like materials on a manifest. The radiator breathed and stopped, like a patient deciding. I slipped a 4th sheet into my inside pocket. He called. "You can effect service by posting in certified copy on the next business day," he said. "Take a photo of the posting with the house identifiable." "There's snow on the numbers," I said. "Kick the step clear," he replied. "You taught me that trick in 2000. I laughed once. "Fair," he added. "Make your face boring. Be a clipboard, not a man." The radiator clicked approval. "Consider me plywood," I told him. "Plywood carries a lot," he said, and hung up. At their door, I brushed the step with my boot until the black numerals flashed like a reveal. The house exhaled warm butter and cinnamon. I taped the notice at eye level and took the photo, the tree's reflection throwing colored dots across the glass like spilled candy. The bell cam glowed. The door yanked open. Michael grabbed the paper. "What is this stunt?" he said. "Service," I told him. "Merry Christmas." Someone behind him laughed. Someone else sucked in air. Isabella's face went tight, then smooth. He crushed the top edge of the notice in his fist. "You can't ruin tonight," he said. "You already did," I said, and held up the second copy so his camera could see it. "You're not the victim," Isabella snapped. "You used leverage to buy obedience." "I used paper to make a promise into a promise," I said. The house's warmth reached for me and failed in the doorway. I slid the second copy into his hand. The kitchen clock at my place ticked in my head like a metronome. A neighbor, Mr. Keene, trudged up with a shovel and stopped at the bottom step, watching like a foreman eyeing a tricky joint. "Everything all right?" he asked, voice mild. "We're good," Michael said too quickly. I nodded to Keene. "Just fixing what's crooked," I said. He tapped the shovel blade on the riser and studied the taped corners. "Look straight from here," he said, and went back to carving a clean path through the drift. The scrape a steady rasp that somehow calmed the air. Isabella tried to smile. "Dennis, you don't want to be remembered for this," she said. "I prefer to be remembered for the rooms that don't fall down," I told her. "Bring back the mixer." Michael glanced over his shoulder toward the table. "You're obsessed with a toy," he said. "It was hers," I answered, and let the pronoun do the lifting. He flinched, then covered it with a shrug. "We'll talk next week," he said. "We talk now," I told him, and stepped back into the snow. Pete texted a minute later. "Title flagged, lender notified, expect an internal hold by midnight, auto pay cancellation pending." The words lay on the screen like tools lined up on a bench, each with a purpose. The storm had gentled into a slow sift, snowflakes drifting like ash. In the truck, I set an alarm for 11:59 p.m. and another for 12:04 a.m. Because sometimes precision is the only prayer that works. The dash clock's faint buzz harmonized with the old radiator in my head. Back at my table, I sharpened a pencil to a mean little point and recopied the code. 2800-68-14000. Next to it, I wrote the notice number, the conference time, and 3 bullet points: voice memo, deposit slip, gift letter draft. I lined them up square, margins true. The radiator exhaled a ribbon of heat and then stilled, as if listening. The clock's click sounded louder in the quiet, like footsteps in a long hall. I poured coffee and let it go to iron again. The family thread hummed on my screen without me. Isabella had posted a close-up of the mixer, glossy and triumphant, captioned with a hearts and sparkles flourish. A cousin wrote, "Manifest abundance." Someone else, "Protect your peace." The banner still read Christmas exclusion in its bland little font. I muted the thread and laid the phone flat. The silence that followed was a clean space, like a room just after the dust settles and before the tools come back out and the real work begins. At 9:42 p.m., Michael called. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. His voice came in hot. "What did you do? The bank emailed me a hold and the payment bounced." Isabella's freaking out. I stared at the empty socket where the mixer used to sit and listened to the clock measure his panic. "A conference," I said. "Paperwork." He cursed. In the background, the chair scraped hard. "You undo it now," he said. The radiator hissed, slow and sure. "No," I said. At 11:59 p.m., the first alarm murmured from the counter. The second waited 4 minutes away, like a backup fuse. I slid the notice copy into my coat and palmed the photo of the mixer on my counter last winter at 6:03 p.m. The radiator gave one long hiss, then stilled, as if passing the baton to the clock. On my screen, the thread title still read Christmas exclusion, indifferent as wallpaper. I killed the alarm and stepped into the cold that smelled like iron and pine. The cul-de-sac wore a new white skin. Music leaped from their door in ceruby ribbons. I knocked. Michael cracked it, eyes rimmed with holiday brightness, fading to red. "What now?" he asked. "Return the mixer," I said. "And listen." "To what?" "To the sound of paper when it moves." He smirked and moved to close the door. I set my boot gently against the jamb. "Not a shove. Just wait." "We stand in the kitchen doorway and settle it," I said. He hesitated, then stepped back. Heat washed my face as we crossed the threshold. The family circle paused mid-chew. The red mixer glowed in the center, like a warning flare. Isabella lifted her chin. "You again." My phone rang in my hand. "Speaker," I said, and tapped. A clear voice filled the room. "Midland Compliance. Mr. Rowe, we have your file. We need borrower on the line for verification." Heads turned to Michael. He swallowed. "I'm here," he said. A fork clinked against porcelain and did not settle. "We have conflicting documentation," the voice said. "A draft gift letter versus a recorded lien and note. Can you confirm whether funds were a gift or a secured loan?" Isabella spoke first. "A gift." I raised the deposit slip and the memo field, simple as a 2x4. "Loan," I said. "Secured." The room's heat faltered in my pulse. "We also have a contemporaneous recording, suggesting intent to misrepresent." The voice continued. "Non-cooperation tonight triggers acceleration at dawn." The clock in my head ticked once, loud as a gavel. Michael's jaw flexed. "This is insane," he said. "It's Christmas." "Calendars don't change contracts," I told him. Isabella's smile cut sideways. "You would destroy your own family over a kitchen toy?" I looked at the red bowl and saw faces bent in it like bed nails. "I prevent rot," I said. The compliance voice returned, colder. "Borrower must acknowledge the lien now and agree to conference, or we begin immediate acceleration procedures." "Title is on the line." Pete's voice joined, steady as a chalk line. "Confirmed." A cousin muttered, "This is cruel." Mr. Keene's shovel scraped the front walk in a relentless rhythm, the sound threading the room. Isabella gestured at the phone. "You can't do this in our home." I nodded toward the papers. "I did it at a table just like that in 2019 when you asked," I said. Michael rubbed his temples. "What do you want?" he asked. "First, return the mixer. Second, acknowledge the loan. Third, stop writing jokes into the thread title like Christmas exclusion and call it what it is. ... The compliance voice cut through. "Borrower, do you acknowledge the note dated March 12, 2019, and the lien securing $280,000 against the property?" Michael stared at the bowl as if it might answer for him. "Say yes," Isabella whispered. He didn't. The room inhaled and forgot how to exhale. The radiator in my memory hissed, as if the old apartment were listening through the phone. Pete cleared his throat. Silence is non-cooperation. We document non-cooperation. Michael's eyes flicked to the front door, as if measuring the run. I placed the transcript of the voice memo beside the bull edges square. Unit 68 hallway, I said. Your words then, he'll never enforce. It's basically a gift. He won't see the 140 back. Isabella flushed, then paled. The color change passed through her like a cloud's shadow. The compliance voice, almost gentle. Borrower, this corroborates misrepresentation. We will proceed unless you correct the record now. Michael's mouth worked and found no purchase. The house smelled suddenly of sugar, turning a degree too dark. Fine, Michael said at last, not looking at me. It was alone. Isabella touched his sleeve, then let her hand fall. The room's noise tried to restart and failed. Say it to them, I said, and tapped the phone. Loan, he repeated, voice smaller. Secured. Compliance replied, neutral. Acknowledged. Conference stands. Acceleration paused, pending signatures. Isabella exhaled slow ribbon of air. Mr. Keen's shovel rasped a steady backbeat outside. Patient as weather. The tree lights hummed a high electrical note almost no one heard. I pointed at the mixer. Now return the thing you took, I said. Laughter flashed and died at the table's edge. Its symbolic was grief, Isabella said, softer now. Symbols belong where they were made, I told her. You can borrow it with manners. Michael looked at the bowl as if it might refuse to be touched. Take it and go, he said. We'll sign whatever Monday. You'll sign what is true, I said. The compliance voice murmured that a courier could appear tomorrow, regardless of weather. I stepped to the island. The red metal hummed with the house's tiny vibrations, a skin drum tuned to domestic pride. I pressed the release and lifted the head. It clicked in my hand with the same small certainty it had the day we unboxed it. The cord was warm. Isabella reached out, then stopped, hands hovering like a dancer's. You got what you came for, she said. Not yet, I replied. The clock in my chest kept time with the one at home, steady, unforgiving. One more thing, I said, and laid the photo of the mixer on my counter last winter, next to the transcript and the deposit slip. 3 stills from a life lined up like joists. You call this petty, I said. I call this plumb. Michael's shoulders sagged. What fixes it, he asked. An apology? Accuracy, I said. Then amends. The compliance voice. Courier window between 9 and noon. Borrower, have identification ready. Pete added dry. And a pen that writes. A thin laugh, rippled and disintegrated. A child wandered in with a frosting-smeared face and stopped, sensing the air had changed shape. Is Grandpa staying? She asked. Isabella knelt and wiped the chin with a napkin, eyes shiny. Grandpa is taking his mixer home, she said. The word home folded around the room like a tape measure retracting. From the phone, for the record, borrower acknowledged secured loan at 12:06 a.m. The tying stamped itself in me. The tree popped a bulb. A faint plastic smell drifted. Sweet and wrong. Michael touched the bowl, then snatched his hand back as if it were too hot. We'll make it right, he said. You'll make it true, I answered. He nodded, a shallow motion that cost him. And the thread title changes now, I said. Write what happened. He pulled out his phone with the reluctance of a man lifting a heavy beam of loam. His thumbs moved. Across town, on my table, the old phone buzzed as the banner shifted from Christmas exclusion to something plainer. December, loan acknowledgement. The compliance voice returned with a final line. Acceleration remains paused. Any missed application or further misrepresentation will reinstate without notice. Understood, Michael said, voice rough. We're done here, Isabella added, but there was no edge in it now, just winter. Not quite, I said, and looked to the empty chair at the end of the table, where habit said I used to sit. A plate waited there, knife and fork parallel as rails. The space held its shape like a form built to pour truth into. Mr. Keen rapped the door frame with his knuckles. Drive's clear, he said. His eyes took in the papers, the phone, the red machine in my hands. You folks need a witness to anything? He asked. Isabella shook her head, then stopped and nodded once. We witnessed enough, she said. The radiator in my memory exhaled one last ribbon of warmth. I unplugged the cord and coiled it tight, a neat spiral. The house sighed as the hum left the counter, and the room recalibrated around the absence. Michael cleared his throat. "Dad," he said, and the word came out older than he meant. "I can fix this if you give me time." "Time is what I already gave you," I told him. "Now you give back what isn't yours." He swallowed. "What if we sell the mixer and send the money?" The table twitched with disapproval. "You don't sell a ledger," I said, and let the silence after do the math. The tree lights flickered and steadied. A wire, barely holding, then holding. He texted a photo of the title flag on his monitor, cursor hovering over a field that read, "Hold active." He added, "Mailed copies queued." The compliance line went quiet except for keyboard breath. Isabella looked up at me, voice small. "Does this mean foreclosure?" "It means the truth showed up before the snowplow," I said. "What comes next is up to you." Michael nodded once, the nod of a man who finally sees that level and square are not insults, but instructions. I tucked the mixer under my arm. The bowl rang softly against the base, a bell heard only by people who build things. "Conference at 10, I said. "You will attend and you will sign." Michael opened his mouth, then closed it. Isabella whispered, "We will." From the phone, compliance asked, almost routine now, "Anything further tonight?" I looked at the paperwork, the tree, the plate laid like a promise never kept, and shook my head. "No," I said. "Tonight we end a mistake." I lifted the latch, stepped into the snow, and let the door close behind me with a clean carpenter's click. The mixer's cord swung once, then stilled.